Hello folks, it's Steve from Deep Stage Coatings. Today I'm working on episode 3 in the series of the 1978 GL1000 Café build. This is a bike that I've had for about 4 years. Bought it along with another bike that I needed for parts. Didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. Initially I was just going to throw some tires on it and get it running, clean it up and flip it. Then decided I was going to hold on to it until some sort of inspiration hit me. About a year ago, it hit me. I decided I was going to tear it down all the way to the frame and build a Café bike out of it. So, been working on that for about a year, off and on. In the middle of all that, I decided that since I couldn't find any place locally to powder coat the parts that I wanted to powder coat, then I started powder coating my own things. And that gave rise to Deep Stage Coatings. So, this episode is going to deal with rebuilding the forks. The first portion is going to be a set of forks off another 1978. The reason for that is I started filming the original forks, the teardown, and the footage was horrible. So I decided to redo it. Then second, there'll be some media blasting and some powder coating. And then finally, we will end up with the actual rebuild of the forks, installing new seals and dust caps and all of that. So I hope you like it, and thanks for watching. Okay, what we have here, a set of forks for 1978 GL1000 Goldwing. They are, let's get this zeroed out here. There we go. 37 millimeter. Don't know if you can read that or not. It's probably upside down. 36.99, 37 millimeter forks. Springs and hydraulics, just like most standard forks. These, I do not believe, have bushings or collets down in the bottoms of them. They're pretty easy to take apart. I've already done a set. This is just a set I'm using basically to show you the teardown of them. Things that you want to have on hand. You don't want to have a ratchet on hand. Your Allen head sockets or regular Allen heads if you have them. A little pry bar comes in handy. Screwdriver comes in handy. Some parts may be pretty rusty and you may have to save them, so muriatic acid is good. Some rinse water and a couple of tubs to put the muriatic acid in, and some rinse water so that you can rinse parts off later. A couple of things that need to take apart here. The first in the beginning are the spring caps here. These are under tension, so you need to be careful as you take those apart. They are going to take, what is this, a number, looks like a number 8 metric Allen. It's usually preferable to do this on the bike if you can. But if you can't, you can wrap a cloth or something around them or soft jaws and put them in your vise. You can loosen these caps if they're tight. These weren't too bad. So there's your spring cap. It has an O-ring on it. Set that to the side. Your springs are on the inside here, and it's full of fork oil. So you're going to want to drain the fork oil first. You don't know how much is in there. Turns out there's not a whole lot in this one. There's some. And while it's draining, I'm going to go ahead and take this lower bolt off. And that releases the plunger. Now inside here, there's a copper crush washer, or a brass crush washer, I think. Oops, that's the wrong size. This one is a number 6. You want to make sure that you replace that crush washer when you put it back together, because that is your seal. Or else you're going to be leaking fork oil, or if you use automatic transmission fluid, which can be done as well. But so we've got it, got the plunger released, got the spring out, the spring cap. Now this spring can be reused, obviously, but in this case, when I rebuild the actual forks that I'm going to use on this bike, I'm going to be going to progressive springs. And it actually looks like at some point, this bike had progressive springs installed. So that's actually a good thing. Wipe this off a bit. You can tell if they're progressives by the spring rates. Your standard forks are going to be this spring rate all the way down. Progressives get tighter and tighter and tighter toward the bottom. And that does help with nose dives. And in my case, I'm definitely going to want to do that because this is a Café build. I'm going to be lowering the front end about 1 inch. So after you've got that off, I'm going to set your rag back down here so that you don't get oil all over the place, because it's still going to leak. One of the best ways to just do that is it just pulls right straight out. And there is your bushing and the bottom of the fork. So that is your upper, and you're left with the lower. And oh yeah, gloves are really important, unless you want to be really greasy. But since there are no bushings on the bottom to make things hard to take apart, they come right out once you release that lower bolt. Then you're left to deal with the dust covers, which in this case, this bike sat for who knows how long outside. And these dudes are probably going to be really stuck in. There we go. Take your dust cover off. You're definitely going to want to throw that away. Inside, in this case, there's a lot of rust. And then there's the fork seal itself. And there's a retainer clip. And there should be a retainer ring or a washer. I don't know if you can tell it here, but this retainer clip, that's the open end of it. There we are. It's already rusted away. Yeah. So this retainer clip itself is trash. You can buy these new, I believe. I was fortunate enough to be able to save the ones from my other set of forks, and they're still in good shape. And then you've got the seal, which is here. And I think there should have been a ring right there. But in this case, these forks didn't have it. And that's probably why the seal's in such bad shape. Pulling these things is definitely not the easiest thing in the world to do. Sometimes you can get underneath them. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just got to get in behind them carefully. just bend them, but this may take a little bit more persuasion. Well, that was fun. These old things. I ended up having to put the leg in the vise and get in there with a flat chisel and come in behind. You can see there a little bit. Come in behind the seal itself and bend the steel retainer part of it. But like I said, if you're going to do that, make sure that you don't score the sides here. This will get dressed up with some emery paper and all cleaned up before I put these back together. So we're ready to put them back together. As you can tell through the other part of the video, these lowers were sandblasted. They were also outgassed in the oven to make sure any oils or anything that soaked into them were bled out. Then they're coated. And the coating is called Pearlized Violet from Prismatic Powders. Really cool color. Disassembly, pretty much the reverse of assembly. Parts I received or I bought for this are the forked seals. Got those from Allballs Racing. Could not find dust covers or dust seals from Allballs, so I ended up getting them from K&S. Both of these sellers are very active on eBay, Amazon, lots of different places. To begin with, we'll start off by putting the tubes into the fork lowers or the legs, however, whatever you want to call them. There are bushings inside, but they're basically, from what I can tell, non-removable. Don't see any way that you can remove them. You just got to make sure that they're smooth and not scored. You want to put them in and just slide them down. Now, to make sure that your plunger is all the way down, and that you can put the nut back into it and put your spring in, That puts a little tension on it. And since they're all cleaned out, you can turn it upside down. And you got the brass washer on there, which is the seal. You can get started into the plunger. Check your torque specifications in your manual. Make sure they're torqued correctly. And I will do that before I put this bike back together. Then you can take the spring out for now. And you want to put the seals in next. Now, in order to help keep from damaging the seal, it's good to put some sort of a barrier on there. Teflon tape, plastic bag. In this case, I'm going to use a plastic bag. I'm going to take just a touch of the fork oil. It was in the other forks that I just took out. I'm going to put it on the inside of the seal. And if there are two ways the seal can go, right way or wrong way. Look at for your numbers and your letters, your part numbers or other, make sure that those go up above. And then just work it down onto the tube over top of the bag and slide it down. Once you have it slid down, get it started into the fork leg. And then we're going to use this handy dandy little tool. Oops. I'm going to put this spacer on first. Sorry, it goes this way. This is basically a slide hammer. It's got some pretty good weight to it. It's got some, I don't know what it is, Teflon or some sort of a protective coating, but it fits all kinds of different size forks, as you can see. And you put it together, you put this piece on top of the spacer, and you just tap it. Tap it down in, and you want to make sure that it stays straight. And also that you get it down below the lip where the retaining ring sits. Hey, that was good. Almost there. Not quite, but almost. And there it is. Hopefully you can see that down below where that retaining clip fits. Then your retaining clip goes down in. Just kind of fit it down into that slot. Some forks, it's not a clip like this, it's like a snap ring. And you have to use snap ring pliers. In this case, it's just this little ring here. And work it around until it's into its groove. And it looks like we're not quite there on this side. Tap it down a little bit farther. And there we go. The only thing left to do is insert your springs. Put in the recommended amount of fork oil or automatic transmission fluid, can be either, and replace your fork cap, and you are done. Check your torque, and you're good to go. So that's it. I'm gonna put it on time lapse for the second one and we'll be done. There you have it, folks. Reassembled forks for the 1978 GL1000 Café build. Still have to put the fork oil in. I have to admit, that's one thing that I forgot to make sure that I had on hand for this video, but it's pretty simple. You just check the service manual, find out how much you need to put in it. It's most likely going to be in milliliters or cc's. And you put it in a graduated center cylinder, you measure it out, or you have a fork oil tool, which is basically a syringe and a hose. And you measure out how much you're supposed to put in it. You put it in through the top of the slider there, and then you secure the cap. So again, thank you for watching, and have a great afternoon. Okay, that's it for this video, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. There'll be many more to come. This has been a long-term build. Hopefully someday I'll get this bike done. I'll actually be able to ride it. If you're looking back here behind me, there's a couple of stickers up there. Some of it, that's me, obviously. This guy right here, this is Green Mountain Media Blasting and powder coating. That's BJ in Jackson, Vermont. If you're in that area and you need anything that he does, please contact him. This is Perfect Powders, Tom Rousseau, up near Racine, Wisconsin. Tom's a great guy, does awesome work. If that happens to be your area and you need powder coating, contact Tom. Some people I don't have stickers for, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Jimmy O'Malley, O'Malley Customs Coatings. He's in Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, Tempe, Arizona. Jimmy's a great guy, a little wild and tight, but he's a fun guy to be around. There's JS Coatings. Jeffrey, excuse me if I do not pronounce your last name correctly, so I'm not even going to try. JS Coatings, I'm not even sure where you're at, bud. Find him on Facebook. And of course, the man, the powder coating god, Sean at Unknown Coatings, Salt Lake City, Utah. Sean has been an unbelievable godsend, providing information, encouragement, hints, tips, tricks, throughout this since I found him 6-7 months ago. So thank you again, Sean. One of these days there'll be a UK sticker up here. And last but not least, folks, go Peaks.